na hanggang sa ngayon, meron pa pong mga komentarista at alagad ng mass media na parating tumutulig sa tuwing magkakaroon ng pagtaas ng presyo ng produktong petrolyo. Tila ngayon lang po sila nagising at natuklasan nila na dito pala sa ating bansa ay iba ng kaayusan ang pinaiiral. At ito ay napakatagal nang umiiral. Tila nag-iisip pa po sila na ang pamahalaan ang siya lamang nagtatakda ng mga presyo ng mga bilihing petrolyo, mga produktong petrolyo, at nakaligtanan nila na matagal na pong nagpalit tayo ng kaayusan dyan, na tayo po ay nasa isang deregulated regime. No? At ito po ang kalakaran sa ating pandaigdigang ekonomiya. Halos wala na pong bansa, no, na umaayon pa doon sa dating kaayusan na nagkakaroon ng regulasyon ng presyo ng mga produktong petrolyo na ang gobyerno ang nangangasiwa. No. Kaya po sana sa ating pagtatalakay ng mga issue ngayon hinggil sa oil price hike na ating nararanasan, maging malinaw po ang konteksto nito. No? Ang ating pamahalaan po ay ginagawa ang lahat na makakaya at nagsasagawa rin ng mga proactive measures para matugunan po yung hamon ng pagtaas ng presyo ng mga bilihing petrolyo. No? At upang matugunan din po ang mga energy requirements ng ating bansa dahil patuloy ang paglago ng ating ekonomiya. Matibay po ang aming paniniwala na kapag pinagtulungan ng mga mamayan at ng pamahalaan ang pagharap sa hamong ito, malalagpasan po natin ang mga panandaliang inconvenience, no, at mga difficulties sapagkat tulong-tulong po tayong lahat. Maraming pong salamat.
At huwag po natin kalimutan na ang isang dahilan kung bakit mayroon tayong forum sa araw na ito ay para i-launch natin ngayon ang nationwide contest for Eat Right Design. Ito yung isang programa ng DOE para ang ating mga kababayan ay makagamit ng ibang klase ng mode of tricycle transportation na matipid at walang ginagamit na gasolina. Di ba, Kathy?
Tama po yan. Ito po ay isang konkretong hakbang para po talagang mas mapalinis natin ang ating hangin at gawing ang Pilipinas na hindi ganoon ka-dependent sa iba pang sources ng fuel.
Kaya tawagan na natin si Secretary Rene Almendras para sa kanyang pananalita para introduce yung bago nating programa.
Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat at ako'y nagpapasalamat sa PIA sa pagkakataong itong makaharap po ang karamihan sa mga media practitioners natin from all modes, as a matter of fact. Uulitin lang po natin, napakalikay po nung ating dependence on imported oil, fuel, for our transport program. Sabi nga natin, more than 70% of the total consumption po natin ng fuel oil ay tungkol po sa transport needs. Mas maganda po sa generation dahil marami na tayong indigenous sources of kuryente. Meron tayong hydro, geothermal, meron pa tayong nat gas, kaya hindi na tayo ganun ka-dependent on petroleum. Less than 10% na lang po ang ating dependence on petroleum for electricity generation. Dahil po dito, kami sa departamento po, nagdesisyon na kailangan harapin na natin yung sitwasyon, harapin natin yung problema. Sana po maalala ninyo that as early as 2010, sinimula na ng Department of Energy na magsabi na ang presyo ng petrolyo ay magpapatuloy na tataas. Bakit po? Dahil nauubos na or yung konsumo po mas malakas, mas maigting ang pagtindi ng konsumo kaysa sa doon sa paghanap ng bagong sources of oil. Sabi nga ng mga eksperto, nag-peak na po ang oil inventories ng buong mundo. Bakit? Dahil mas konti po yung nahahanap na oil kaysa doon sa paglakas ng konsumo. So, kumbaga, depletion mode na tayo. Dahil po dyan, sabi nila na fuel price, with hydrocarbon pricing or yung presyo po ng petrolyo will always be on the rise. Problema po, may mga nangyayari sa mundo na nakakaapekto ng presyo. Napansin po natin nung first part po ng 2011, tumaas ng husto yung presyo, pero maganda naman po, towards the second half, bumaba na naman. Bakit? May konting gulo sa isang lugar, at the second half, nag-collapse po yung mga ekonomiyang malalaki, kaya demand went down. Ngayon po, may mga bagong hamon na naman. May mga nangyayari sa gitnang silangan, may mga issues, may mga potential supply interruptions na pinag-uusapan pa lang ho naman. Lahat po nito nakakaapekto sa presyo. But kahit po wala tong mga incidences, wala tong mga geopolitical, sabi nga nilang, potential problems in these areas, kailangan maintindihan natin that because supply is now limited, because we are on a depletion mode, fuel pricing will continue to go up. Hindi po bago to. As early as 10 years ago, nakita na po ng buong mundo to. At dahil dito, yung ibang mga bansa, naghanda na po sila ng kanilang mga programa at nagsimula na silang gumawa na kailangan nilang gawin to move away from dependence on petroleum. Example lang po naman, sabi nila sa akin, paano pag may nangyari sa petroleum supply? Lahat ba tayo, lahat ba ng bansa magkakaproblema? Karamihan po magkakaproblema. Pero may mga bansa po na hindi nag-aalala. Example lang po, Singapore. 100% po ng public transport system in Singapore is running on nat gas. Lahat ng bus nila, lahat ng kahit mga taxi po nila is running on natural gas. Yung mass transit nila is running on electricity. 100% of Singapore's generation, electricity generation po, is not petroleum-based. It's running on nat gas. So even if merong interruption on flows or supply of petroleum, they can continue moving on. Nakakaingit po as far as I'm concerned. Kaya po tayo sa departamento, ngayon we're starting and we're hopefully accelerating, bibilisan po natin na malagay yung infrastructure para po makashift tayo to alternative fuels. Doon po kami nagsimula, doon sa aming programa last year na sinimula na tinawag natin Fueling Sustainable Transport. Ibig po sabihin, hahanapan natin ng alternative fuels or alternative technologies para yung ating transport system will be sustainable. A subset of FSTP or Fueling Sustainable Transport po is e-trike. Bakit po natin pinag-iinitan ang tricycle? The tricycle po is the mode of transportation of a vast majority of Filipinos. Sabi po, technically sinasabi natin ang tricycle po ang mode of transportation ng base of the pyramid. Mas maraming Pilipino po ang nakikinabang sa tricycle as a mode of transportation. There's about 1 million registered tricycles in the Philippines today. Registered meaning may prangkisa po na tumakbo siya as a for-hire tricycle. Ang sabi po ng iba, maybe there's 1 million more out there that's not officially registered as such. Now, kahit saan probinsya po tayo pumunta, nakakita po tayo ng tricycle. Iba-ibang design, iba-ibang kulay. Nakakita na po ako ng tricycle na punong-puno ng tao. Sabi nga nung isang Hapon na nakausap ko, when that motorcycle was designed, it was designed to carry 2 people. Maximum 3 people. Sabi niya, bilib ako sa Pilipino. Nakita ko na yung motorsiklo na dinisign namin, na ginawa namin, kaya palang magdala ng 8 tao at isang buhay na baboy. Okay? Because that is the truth. Ang tricycle po sa probinsya, hindi lang po pantao. It is the main mode of transportation. Ilang beses na po tayo nakakita ng tricycle, may 2 sakong bigas, and so on and so forth. So, dahil po siya yung mode of transport sa sinasabi nating base of the pyramid, kaya ho tayo nag-focus sa tricycle dahil sabi natin, kung ito ang masolusyonan natin, napakalaki ng impact nito doon sa mga kababayan natin na siyang nangangailangan the most ng solution to higher energy pricing po. Ang maganda po sa electric tricycle program, sinasabi natin, triple bottom line. Economically po, mas maganda siya dahil napatunayan na natin na yung gagastusin ng driver sa gasolina versus yung gagastusin niya para magpa-recharge, nakatipid siya ng almost 200 to 300 pesos po. It has an economic value dahil hindi tataas yung kahit saan man pumunta ang presyo ng gasolina po o ng crudo. Dahil hindi na po nangangailangan tong tricycle na to ng fuel, liquid fuel, the pricing is mitigated. Ibig sabihin, hindi kailangan tumaas ang pamasahe ng tricycle. Yan naman po yung social dimension. Makikinabang po ang bansang Pilipino. Tayong lahat, lalo na yung ating mga kababayan sa mga probinsya, makikinabang po sila dahil they will be insulated from the fuel price increases po. And the third advantage is really the environment. The motorcycle po is one of the most heaviest polluter of the environment. Bakit po? Yung iba, two-stroke engine, yung gasolina may halong lubricant. Pag sinindihan mo yung lubricant na yun, yung pollutants nun, mas matindi pa kayo sa gasolina dahil they were never intended to be combusted. Pangalawa, yung load, yung motorsiklo, dinesign for 3 people, kinakargahan natin ng 10 tao, lalo ho siyang mausok. So, yung advantage po, pag nag-shift tayo to the electric tricycle is mawawala rin yung pollution factor na yun. Sagutin ko lang po kung bakit tayo magpapa-contest ngayon. Number 1, hindi po inimbento ng Department of Energy ang electric tricycle. Okay. There's a few hundred electric tricycles running in the Philippines today. Kagagawan po to ng mga Pilipino. It is an innovation and an invention of the Filipino people. Pwede po kayong pumunta sa Surigao, sa Palawan, sa Davao, and in many places, marami na pong tricycle na tumatakbo, electric at that. Gusto lang namin pong maghanap ng disenyo that is most practical. Sabi nga nila, pwede naman natin i-design yung tricycle na napakagandang upuan, napaka-makulay, napaka-artistic or encouraging. It's more fun to ride the e-trike or whatever. The point is, we're looking for a practical design. Yung design po na pwede sa Metro Manila, pwede sa poblasyon, pwede rin kargahan ng baboy, pwede rin kargahan ng bigas or gulay when it is brought to the provinces. Maybe we're looking for a utility vehicle of sorts. Sabi ko nga dun ang dami po nga palang na interesado dito. Mga Chinese businessmen from China, even the Japanese are very interested. They've come to see me when they heard about this plan. Sabi ko, alam mo, may SUV, di ba? Yung mga expedition, mga Pajero, sports utility vehicle. Ang Pilipinas, dito nagsimula yung AUV, yung Asian Utility Vehicle. Nagsimula yan nung Tamaraw, yung Ford Fiera. Ngayon, naging Innova and so on. Sabi ko, this is the next one. I would like to think that this is the beginnings of RUV, or the Rural Utility Vehicle. A vehicle that can be used in rural environment for the transport of people or the goods or whatever else it is needed to be. The reason bakit magpapakontest tayo is ayoko namang sabihin na kami-kami lang ang pumili. Ang gusto namin, I believe in the innovation of the Filipino people. Magaling po ang Pilipino. Kaya ho nagka-jeepney dahil ang Filipino nag-innovate sa Willys Jeep galing sa Second World War. Wala pong pwedeng magturo sa Pilipino tungkol sa tricycle. Sabi nga ng Hapon, mas marami pa kaming matututunan sa inyo about this vehicle format because sa Japan naman wala silang tricycle eh. Tayo dito, we are the best venue or the incubator for the development of such a rural utility vehicle. We feel that out there are many ideas po. Marami pong magagaling na Pilipino na naisip na po nila na alam mo siguro mas maganda kung ganito ang design ng tricycle na to or siguro mas maganda kung ganito yung design. This contest is really dedicated to bring out the best ideas from the Filipinos. The reason why it's nationwide is malamang po yung design, yung pinakamagandang design will not come from Makati. Most probably, yung pinakamagandang and most practical design will come from a far-flung area where the tricycle is the only mode of transportation because sila po would have a different perspective on how this vehicle or how the electric tricycle can be used. So we really just want to promote Filipino innovation We trust, I have so much faith that the Filipinos will come up with a very practical yet aesthetically beautiful design, something that will be applicable, adaptable to the realities of our country. And guess what? I was talking to a Japanese company who said, you know, Mr. Secretary, we're willing to put up a factory here in the Philippines, and we estimate that the market is beyond the Philippines. Sabi nila, when you perfected this technology and this design, we're even thinking of selling it to the other Asian countries, to other developing countries. Siyempre, yung mga bansa na hindi kasing yaman ng Japan or kasing yaman ng Singapore, pero yung mga bansa na meron ding rural areas na nangangailangan ng practical and yet cheap mode of transportation. Kaya po kami ay very excited this contest. Ang mangyayari po, kung sinong mananalo sa contest na to, siya ang pipiliin ng ADB, maybe 2 or 3 of the designs. Pipiliin po ng technical group. Meron po may technical group po na kinuha ang ADB from some of them from the Japanese car manufacturers. Yung mga designer po ng mga kotse ng Japan are very interested to come over and will help it perfect the design, and from there, the procurement process po ng ADB will allow us, and hopefully we're really looking forward, sana po, we want to order as much as 20,000 units of these electric tricycles for the first year in production so that we can roll it out. Now, of course, we can only do this with the cooperation and the help of the local government units. Because after all, ang franchising po, ang operations, and ang supervision and regulation ng tricycle po ay nasa LGU. So kami po ay nakikipag-ugnayan sa iba-ibang mga LGUs. At ako po ay tuwan-tuwa that there are some really very progressive LGUs who have come forward. Ngayon pa lang sinasabi nila, SEC, sali kami dyan. SEC, 2,000 units kami. SEC, initially 1,000 kami, but gusto namin eventually 6,000 units. Because doon po idadaan po natin sa LG itong programa na to. So, babalik ko na po muna kay Director Fabi at mukhang masyado marami na ako nasabi.
Maraming salamat po, Secretary Almendras. And since nagsimula na pong mag-expound si Secretary Almendras tungkol sa e-trike project na ito, let's give the floor now to Assistant Director Jesus Anunciacion, ang Energy Utilization Management Bureau, to give us more details about the nationwide competition.
Magandang umaga po sa kanilang lahat. Meron po tayong guidelines na dinistribute ang PIA about the contest. So medyo mahaba-haba po, pero yung main pictures lang ang aking sasabihin. Yung entry po ay kailangan 2D and 3D computer-aided drawings of the best aesthetic and functional design for the future Philippine e-trike look. Ito po ay kailangan may submission ng hard copy at saka ng electronic copy. Ngayon po, yung basic design parameters, yung itsura po ng ating tricycle, e-trike, kailangan hindi siya lalampas ng 6 na pasahero, excluding the driver po yan, so mga 7. It must be a 3-wheeled vehicle. In contrast po, yung mga tricycle natin may motorsiklo at saka may sidecar. Ito po, 3-wheeled vehicle siya para sa, yung design ng electric tricycle. Ang contest po ay bukas sa lahat ng Filipino citizens, 18 years old and above. So, ito po ay nationwide. Ito po ay papalaganap ng tungkol sa contest ng Philippine Information Agency sa lahat ng regions. Meron pong official registration form na pipilapan yung contestant at meron siyang may requirement po ng notarized ownership certification. Kailangan po yung submission ng contestant sa kanya yung drawing. Yung deadline po ng submission ay sa February 17, 2012 dun po sa opisina ng Energy Utilization Management Bureau ng Department of Energy dun po sa Port Bonifacio. Ang isang contestant ay pwede po lamang mag-submit ng isang entry. So, yung pong final judging ay gagawin doon din sa opisina ng Department of Energy sa February 24, 2012. There will be top 10 winners, 10 po ang mananalo. Yung pong top 3 ay mananalo ng tig 200,000 pesos each. At saka yung matitirang 7 ay mananalo ng consideration prize na 50,000 pesos each. So, ay yung pong mga magkakaroon po ng awarding na to be announced later. Doon po i-award yung mga top winners. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat, Director Anunciacion. At tawagan naman natin ulit si Secretary Almendras tungkol dito naman sa oil price hike na napipinto. Dahil marami pong nagtatanong dito tungkol po dito sa oil price hike na napipinto, lalo na yung problema sa Iran na napabalita na. Kaya pwede ho ba kayong magbigay ng update kung ano yung mga kaganapan tungkol dito?
Number one, nire-recommenda ko po na magbasa tayo ng newspaper na lahat naman po, media, international media covers what's happening in Iran. Dalawa po yung view. Alam niyo naman po may initiative on the European side to stop buying fuel from Iran. And Iran is saying, pag ginawa niyo yun, magkakagulo, whatever that means. On another front, the GCC, yung Gulf countries po that are basically the oil producers, have also started increasing their production in anticipation of a shift by the European Union countries para hindi na bibili from Iran, bibili sa kanila. So, hindi po natin alam kung where this will go to. Ang maganda po is, there was a report I read very early this morning that said na they think the conflict will not prosper. They think that the situation will stabilize. Ang pinaka-problema lang po talaga is that yung buong Asia po relies on the Middle East for fuel. Tayo in particular, ang Pilipinas, 80% of our fuel comes from the Gulf states. And so that is the reason why yung presyo po natin dito gumagalaw, at kami po sa departamento, ang sinisiguro lang po namin ay na yung galaw ng presyo dito sa Pilipinas ay pareho sa galaw ng presyo sa pandaigdigang oil market po. Tumataas siya dahil ninenervyos o nangangailangan, there's increased demand. Therefore, hopefully, if things will stabilize, prices will go down. Nangyari na po last year yan. In the first half, taas yan ang taas. Pero nung nag-stabilize, nung na-stabilize yung sitwasyon sa Arab Spring, bumaba naman yung presyo. Mahirap po magsabi kung saan naaabot, hanggang anong presyo aabot. I'm sorry, I will not answer that question. There are global opinions on how high pricing can go to. What we need to do is we need to prepare for it, and that's precisely why we have called our own interagency energy contingency committee to a meeting, because we need to discuss a few things with them again. Ang maganda naman pong balita is supply is not a problem right now. Supply continues. There is no risk. There's even no slowdown in deliveries. If we want to buy more fuel, we can buy more fuel. Hindi po problema yon. Except na mataas yung presyo. Yun talaga ang pinaka-issue doon po.
Maraming salamat po, Secretary. Tawagin natin si Rafi Rico ng Manila Star.
Yes, good morning, Secretary. Gusto ko lang pong itanong, bakit po electrical tricycle hindi na lang dipadyak para hindi na po tayo gumastos talaga?
Mas maganda po yun, pero with over 2.5 million tricycles running in the country, parang the people have spoken. Yung mga kababayan natin have made a choice. Na sabi nila, this is the acceptable mode of transport na gusto namin. Ayaw ho nating kontrahin yung preference ng tao, because when you want to change po transformational technology, kung kakalabanin mo yung preference ng tao, you will fail. It's really much better if you follow suit na etong nakasanayan, let's bring an innovation into something na nakasanayan na, and let's improve on it, or let's transform it po.
Follow up lang, sir. Magkano naman po ang binabalak nyong maging presyo tong electric tricycle na gusto nyong i-design?
So far, the range po is from 180 to 250 or 280, but hindi po natin malalaman yung eksaktong presyo until ma-finalize yung design. Because syempre, yung cost to produce will be a function of the design. Alam na natin kung magkano yung battery, alam na natin magkano yung electric motors, yung controllers, at meron ng idea kung yung platform, kumbaga ito yung platform kung saan mo ikakabit yung design mo. But there is still a cost to the design, and of course, we're hoping that part of the criteria for the design is the most practical. Siyempre, pwede ho tayong gumawa ng tricycle na kasing ganda ng Mercedes-Benz, pero sobra naman ang mahal. That's not practical. We're looking for something practical, usable po, and most of all, economical to produce. Marami po kasing interesado mag-manufacture. Meron pong consortium of Japanese. 2 car manufacturers in Japan have come together to form a consortium, came to see us and said, we're willing to bid to build these tricycles for you. There's a Chinese group that also wants to do it. Ang hinahanap po is design. Kasi hindi talaga nila kaya mag-design. Kahit sila sinasabi nila, hindi namin naintindihan yan, hindi namin alam yan. Kayong mga Pilipino, kayong nakakaalam kung paano dapat yan.
Thank you, sir.
Sunod pong magtatanong, Mr. Nildo Fable ng DZRJ.
Secretary, good morning. Sir, tanong ko lang kasi tanggapin natin ang katotohanan na sa kabila po ng umiiral na oil deregulation law, kaya nawalan ho ng direktang kontrol ang gobyerno para kontrolin po yung pagtatas ng presyo ng langis. Marami pa rin mga kababayan tayo na hindi nila naintindihan yun. Una, kapag patuloy kasi yung pagtataas ng presyo ng langis, naapektuhan po nito yung mga presyo ng pangunahing bilihin dahil gumagamit ng transportasyon yan. Ang tanong ko dito, Secretary, is mayroon na bang nakikitang pamamaraan ang gobyerno, particular po ang Department of Energy, na kapag inilapat po natin yung pamamaraan na yan, kahit na linggo-linggo magtataas po ng presyo ng kanilang produktong petrolyo ang mga kumpanya ng langis, hindi na ho aangal at mawawala yung pangamba ng ating mga kababayan na baka sumabay din yung presyo ng mga pangunahing bilihin.
Mahirap po magsabi na meron ng solusyon. Sa totoo lang po dahil tanggapin po natin na wala pong bansa, walang gobyerno sa buong mundo, kahit ang Amerika, kahit ang Russia, kahit ang China, wala pong bansa, walang gobyerno na may kakayahan na i-regulate ang international oil pricing. Bakit po? Simple lang. Dahil wala pong bansa na may ekonomiya na large enough or big enough na kaya niyang i-influence ang pricing. Okay? Because siyempre, isipin mo, lahat ang buong mundo is involved in a market. So, kahit ang Amerika, ang ginawa nga ng Amerika, sinabi nila, hindi na kami mag-i-export. Amin na lang to, kaya may sarili silang index, may sarili silang presyo, but only for the US. Yung, di ba, dati, binabatikos po kami, bakit daw hindi bumababa ang presyo ng gasolina sa Pilipinas, samantarang yung WTI bumaba na to $83 a barrel. Ang sagot ko naman po doon, kahit po anong gawin ko, hindi naman ako bebenta ng Amerikano. Sinabi na ng Amerikano na wala na. Alam na namin kung saan pupunta to, kaya we have to secure ourselves. No? So, dahil po sa sitwasyon na walang bansa, walang gobyerno na may kakayahan na mag-regulate ng oil pricing sa buong mundo, by nature, deregulated po ang international oil pricing. It is not a regulated, hindi po siya, wala hong nagre-regulate. It is absolutely free enterprise demand and supply structure. So, kung ganyan po yung panggagalingan ng inyong resources, at tayo po ay isang bansa na walang sariling production, tayo po ay umaangkat lang, binibili lang natin from abroad. Napakahirap po or hindi po kayang i-regulate yung local market dahil galing po sa international unregulated market yung input. So the only way you will regulate that is you need to set aside money to do that. And ang tawag po doon, subsidy. So the only way you regulate it is pag tumaas To prevent it na para hindi taas, i-subsidize mo. Sagutin mo at sabihin, hindi. 20 ang, sabihin mo, 100 ang bentahan, it will cost 100 para ko bibilhin. Galing 50, tumaas ng 100. Ayokong pataasin yung bentahan ng 50. 50 pa rin. Kailangan ko ng 50 para i-subsidize. Otherwise, wala akong mabibili nung produktong yun, di ba? Example lang po, ang Indonesia. May sarili silang oil. Dati exporter po sila. Nung naubos na yung oil, naubos na yung deposits nila, ngayon po, importer na ang Indonesia. Nung exporter sila, nasanay ang mga tao at a certain price level. Kaya nung naubos yung oil nila na kailangan na sila mag-import, sinubukan nila itaas yung presyo, nagka-problema sila. So hanggang ngayon, nagsasubsidize pa sila dahil dahan-dahan nilang pinapahabol yung domestic pricing sa international pricing. Ang budget po nila last year was $10 billion. 10 bilyong dolyares po ang budget nila to subsidize. At the end of the year, they spent almost 15 billion daw. I don't know the exact amount. They're still studying it. But definitely, nagkulang yung binudget nila. Ikumpara niyo po yun. Kung tayo ang magsa-subsidize, at ako, wag niyo sana mong, please don't misunderstand me. If you tell me that we will subsidize, I will. But, produce the money. Saan ko kukunin yung pera na pwede kong gamitin para i-subsidize yung presyo ng fuel? At sana po wag natin kalimutan na meron tayong 931 billion pesos na utang from the energy sector. Okay, na-inherit po natin yon. So, mahirap pong gumalaw na meron ka pang utang na ganito kalaki, di ba? So, yun po ang drag na sitwasyon natin. Alam ko po may mga tao na nagsasabi dapat i-subsidize. Sige ho, decision po pwede hong desisyonan yun, pero meron hong value exchange yun. If we use the tax revenues to subsidize fuel, ano na lang hong mangyayari doon sa pinanggagamitan natin yan ngayon? Ano mangyayari doon sa mga hospital, sa mga other services that the government is providing? And that's not just my decision po. It is a decision at the national level and sinabi na nga po ni Secretary Coloma kanina, kahit ho communist country, kahit yung bansang komunista ngayon, hindi na ho sila nagsasubsidize eh. Talagang sinasabi nila, alam niyo po sa APEC sa San Francisco, nung sa Hawaii po, merong resolution ng APEC na dapat wala ng subsidy on hydrocarbons. For the simple reason na sinasabi nila, pag insulated po sa pagtaas ng presyo, yung konsumo hindi naapektuhan. Which is not fair. Kasi sabi nila, kaya yung konsumo natin sa petrolyo continuously, palakas ng palakas, because people are not feeling the truth na the supply is not there anymore. Because dapat, pag tumataas yung presyo, yung consumption pattern mo nag-iiba din. That is a resolution po ng APEC, hindi po ng Pilipinas, hindi po ng Department of Energy. So, hindi naman po kami nagsasabing absolutely no to subsidies or no to regulation. All we're saying po is, you cannot regulate. Pag sinabi ko ngayon na hindi pwedeng tumaas ang presyo ng gasolina beyond this amount, anong mangyayari bukas? Sa tingin niyo ba ho, yung may-ari ng gas station or yung mga oil companies, magpapatuloy mag-angkat to supply kung malulugi sila? Siyempre hindi. So therefore, kailangan mo ng subsidy level. Now, if we want to, that's a national decision po. I will abide with whatever decision po. Congress says na, okay, we'll set aside billions, hundreds of billions to subsidize, then that can be done. But it has national impact po.
Thank you po.
Maraming salamat, Secretary Almendras. Tawagin naman natin si Alvin El Chico. Meron kayo.
Morning po, Morning, Secretary San. Morning po. Sir, paki-elaborate naman more sa second batch ng Pantawid Pasada. Kasi sabi nung transport groups na interview kahapon, hindi daw sustainable and they would rather have a fair rate hike.
first of all po, yung pantawid pasada is not supposed to be an alternative to fare rate hike, di ba? The concept po ng pantawid pasada ay talagang pantawid. It is habang hindi nag-a-adjust yung economic inputs to equilibrium pricing, paano ba ipaliwanag yun? Ganito ho yun. Pag may biglang tumaas ng presyo ng gasolina, hindi po immediate na sumusunod lahat ng inputs, lahat ng bagay po, no? So yung kaya ho natin ginawa yung pantawid pasada because sabi natin kailangan ng stopgap cushioning effect na kahit merong biglang spike, meron kang pangsalo habang ina-align pa yung ibang mga price considerations. So I agree with the transport groups in the context na pantawid pasada is really just a cushion. It's kaya nga pantawid, it's not a permanent solution. It is intended to cushion while hearings, while discussions are ongoing on the other things po.
So is it true na more than 60% lang daw yung nag-avail ng jeepney driver sa first batch? That's why they're saying hindi lahat kami naka-avail eh.
We printed all the cards. The cards were ready based on the lists. At ang requirement lang naman po is to show na merong na-registered siya sa LTO at may prangkisa siya, so pwede na niya kunin yung card niya. Unfortunately, not everyone wanted to get it or not everyone qualified to get it. So, nandiyan na po yung pera, so we will load the cards that are already issued po. But that is, I still need to wait for the approval ng IECC. We're meeting tomorrow afternoon po ata. We will know po kung magkano, pag-uusapan po kung magkano. If it's a question of amount, nandyan pa po yung pera. Hindi naman natin ginagalaw yun because that really is intended for that po.
Next question po galing kay Ms. Josette Olivera ng Radyo ng Bayan.
Doon po kay Secretary Almendras. Sir, may mga pagdududa po sa presyo na ipinapataw ng ating mga oil companies po dito at nagkaroon na rin po ng balita na susuriin yung libro ng naturang mga oil companies, especially yung Big Three. Nakapagsagawa na po ba ng mga pagsusuri?
Okay. Ang pinag-usapan po was the big three oil companies volunteered na bubuksan nila yung mga records nila to show po kasi yung pagdududa nga excessive profits or malaki yung patong nila. So sabi nila, hindi, wala kami tinatago, we'll show you the records. So ang decision po was to form a committee to investigate or to check on this. We finally have a list of members for this committee to be led by one of our more renowned economists, si Dr. Diokno po. We are just finalizing, just nung Lunes po, finalize ko na yung terms of reference kasi siyempre gusto rin nila maintindihan kung anong scope, ano yung pag-aaralan, kasi ang worry nga nitong mga volunteers po, papasalamat po ako sa kanila dahil wala po silang sweldo. And they will be devoting a portion of their time every week just to go through the process of going through this evaluation po. So we've finalized the TOR, we've sent the copy to them. Hopefully, they will come back and say, okay, game. Eto, sila din may mga hinihingi na, okay, hindi kami humihingi ng sweldo, kailangan namin ng tulong on the staff, on the data gathering, so fina-finalize po yun. As soon as that's finished, it started. And as we mentioned, we think by February, it can start already po.
By February pa po. Sir, noon pong during Marcos administration, meron po silang tinatawag na Oil Price Stabilization Fund na isa po sa paraan para medyo hindi naman tumaas yung presyo ng langis dito. Hindi po ba kino-consider ito ng kasalukuyang administrasyon?
Yung problema po ng Oil Price Stabilization Fund was it became a source of one of the biggest fiscal costs to the country po. In deference po, the Oil Price Stabilization Fund was intended kasi na pag bumaba yung presyo, kikita siya, pag tumaas yung presyo, babawi siya. But in a scenario where you see na things are on the way up. You're just para na rin yung it's outright subsidy na po. You're better off doing outright subsidy because in the long run, negative din naman ho resulta, which is exactly what happened to the OPSF. And it created such a heavy burden to the government eventually po. So you're really better off considering it as outright subsidy na lang po. You create a fund where you will draw directly for that subsidy po if you really want to go in that direction.
So, hindi po kino-consider yon.
It is not an ideal option po. As a matter of fact, nobody in the world uses that mechanism. The only mechanism that they do now is really going to direct subsidy to mitigate pricing po.
Last question na lang po. Ano na po yung development dito sa mga dinidevelop nating mga energy sources, especially yung geothermal?
We continue to develop as many energy resources as we can, both traditional and what you call renewable po. We were being criticized na bakit po tawagan nila sa akin coal boy, di ba, na wala na daw akong ibalam kundi coal. Sa totoo lang, I've only approved 600 megawatts of coal projects, and yet I've already signed over 1,200 megawatts of hydro projects. So, ano lang po, we continue to issue service contracts and process applications, and we encourage all forms of indigenous sourcing. Yung sa oil and gas, doon po matagal yon, okay? Kasi that's 100 million well, and bago ka even before you set your first well, you spend another 20 million in seismic data and evaluation. Siyempre nobody will risk spending 100 million kung papaltos, ano? So, ngayon pa lang ho na tayo successfully nakapag-launch ng PECR. Hopefully, we will award that PECR in the next few months. Last December po, we opened 30 new coal service contract areas for bidding para ho naman people can come in. So, magpapatuloy po ang indigenous development natin. Sabi ko nga, yung battle cry ko po is not renewable or green or what. It's about indigenous. The more energy sources that can come from the Philippines, the better for us po. So the less we import, the better for us. Kaya we're trying to develop as much locally sourced energy resources. I'd like to take the opportunity, makikiusap rin po sana ako sa mga local government units. Sana po maintindihan nila na dapat po tayong lahat magtulong-tulong because problema po ng buong bansa ito. Sana po maintindihan nila na we need the cooperation of the local government officials and the local government units in developing these indigenous resources po. Kahit ano pong gawin ng national government, if the local governments do not cooperate, instead of encouraging, they are preventing the local energy sourcing, wala pong mangyayari sa atin.
Thank you.
Maraming salamat. At tawagin natin si Bernadette Reyes, GMA 7.
Good morning, Secretary. Apo. Sir, you mentioned in one of our interviews that you agree to the increase of fare for jeepneys. What's your reason for this? And hindi mo kaya mag-clash kayo ni Secretary Marojas because of your statement?
I did not say I agree. I said that there is, first of all, if the reason for the increase is because of fuel, then you cannot deny the fact that there is fuel price increase. And you are correct po, dapat hindi ako nakikialam because transport pricing is not with the DOE. I do not comment on any decisions on fare pricing or anything like that. As a matter of fact, if I may just complain a little bit, I don't know why I'm the one being talked to by the transport groups. I am not the regulatory environment to that. No, they are all my friends. I have nothing to hide. I talk to them. I listen to them. We provide them whatever assistance we can get. But hindi po namin. It is not our intention to take over or to be involved on that side po. Kami talaga is just on fuel. Our job is to make sure that the transport groups see the actual international movement para ho makita nila kung tama ba o hindi at fair ba yung increase or hindi po.
Sir, let me rephrase the question. So do you think it's timely for the transport group to ask for a fare, for an increase when it comes to the jeepney fares, to increase the minimum fare?
I would rather not comment because the LTFRB will make that decision at the appropriate time. I am not an expert po on costing the inputs of transport. I'm not an expert at anything. All we're saying is that we're just really giving the correct, making sure that the correct information about fuel pricing is available po.
Sir, lastly, we've spoken to several drivers and they said that the procedure for the procurement of the Pantawid Pasada card is somewhat difficult. So do you plan to make changes or to alter the process?
Pasensya na po All you have to do is bring your registration and your franchise certificate so that you can get your card. That's all. Mahirap po talagang kumuha ng Pantawid Pasada kung kolorum kayo or wala kayong registration. I'm sorry, prangkahan lang po. So everybody, there's a transport organization complaining na yung mga miyembro niya hindi kasali sa listahan. Ang pasasabi ko, baka naman kolorum yung mga miyembro mo. Diba? All we're saying is kung may listahan, binibigay ng listahan ng LTFRB sa amin, sinasabi, eto ang mga may prangkisa. Listahan ng LTO, eto yung mga registered na may prangkisa. Sa totoo lang po, may prangkisa na wala sa listahan ng LTO. Meron namang nasa listahan ng LTO, registered, pero walang prangkisa. Hindi ko po sila pwedeng bigyan ng Pantawid Pasada card. Sabi po ng Commission on Audit, ang bibigyan mo ay yung may prangkisa at registered for the year. So, that's the limitation. Now, at fair naman po siguro yun, di ba? Ito yung gobyerno tumutulong na, trying to help cushion the impact of fuel pricing. Siguro naman po, it's only correct na yung tutulungan ng gobyerno, yung talagang sumusunod naman sa patakaran ng gobyerno na may prangkisa at registered. Unfair naman po doon sa mga gumagastos o nagsusumikap na sumunod sa matawid na daan, na talagang ginagawa nila kung ano dapat nilang gawin po.
Sir, but there are still cards which do not have load yet as of the moment.
Yes, I have 200,000 cards printed and ready based on the lists that were submitted. But hindi namin ma-release hanggang hindi mag-submit ng franchise and registration. So we've only loaded about almost 100,000.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank
Tawagan natin si Hilda Ong.
Magandang umaga po, Secretary. Curious lang po ako dito po tungkol po sa three-wheel electric vehicle po natin. Ang design po ba nitong electric wheel ba to parang bang pagka nakatouch po sa kuryente, tatakbo na po ba ang electric o kaya kailangan mag-charge muna sila sa bahay nila?
Okay. Ang prototype po natin ngayon is 6 hours charging. So pag tulog niyo sa gabi, ipa-plug niyo. So pagising niyo sa umaga, full charge na siya. It runs for 80 to 100 kilometers using lithium ion. So yung design po is not it's really na battery charging po. Ang Meralco is offering, will put up quick charging stations kasi pag lithium ion po yung ginamit, parang cellphone natin. Yung battery po ng cellphone niyo is lithium ion. So pag medyo low ka na, habang kumakain si driver, plug mo, quick charge, reload, takbo na naman po. So yun po yung design na pinag-uusapan natin. Maganda po to dahil pag charge sa gabi, alam niyo naman po yung peak hours natin nasa umaga So it even helps us manage the base load ng electricity consumption. Sa China po, napaka-common sight na habang pumaparada, naka-plug. Naka-plug yung kotse, naka-plug yung motorcycle. It's happening na po. Sa Amerika po, sabi ng Secretary of Energy ng United States, ang target nila is 1 million electric cars running in the streets by 2014 ata. That's not very far. Israel is all electric vehicles. Only military vehicles will be allowed to use petroleum by 2020. There are 3 cities in Australia who have already said by 2020, bawal na ang internal combustion engine. All electrics na sila. So, again, hindi po tayo, hindi po tayo nangunguna nito. As a matter of fact, catch up na nga ho tayo naghahabol na ho tayo. Yung mga ibang lugar, mas ahead po sila sa atin dito.
Okay.
Follow-up question ko lang. Paano po kung nag-brown out o kaya nasa alanganin po sila sa daan, paano po makikicharge ang isang three-wheel vehicle?
Ang design po is it can recharge from any diretso to any outlet po. Hindi ho two options, either outlet charging or quick charging. Iba yung docking point po. That's the base technology. Wag ho sila mag-alala doon. Dinesign na po 'yon ng mga eksperto. Ang problema is the design of the vehicle itself. Dadating po ang panahon na kasi ngayon po may mga kotse na that can run up to 100 kilometers na on one charge. So, maybe 10 years from now, pag medyo low bat na yung kotse mo, pupunta ka sa mall. Okay, pa-plug mo, magme-merienda ka muna, pagkatapos mo magmerienda, full charge na, biyahe ka na naman. Ganun po ang lifestyle na nangyayari. Meron na pong mga cities in Israel and in Australia being designed along those routes po na imbis na gas station, meron ng recharging station. The other concept din po is battery replacement. Pag discharge na yung battery mo, pupunta ka sa isang lugar, ibibigay mo yung battery mo, bibigyan ka ng another battery, babayaran mo yung chinarge sa battery na yan. So, parang clamp, pack, takbo na naman. Para ka nag-reload lang.
Last question. Itong pag-charge po ba ay libre po ba? Makakaroon ba ng free charging station ng gobyerno?
Meron pong bayad ang charging. Ang maganda lang po, ang calculation natin, imbis na 300 pesos a day on fuel, lumalabas po mga 80 to 95 pesos lang ang cost of recharging. Kasi yung efficiency po nung energy conversion ratio ng electric vehicles is better than petroleum po.
Okay.
Salamat po.
Kaya right now, go e-trike. Next question po, Michelle Orosa, TV5.
Sir, regarding lang yung audit committee, what does the DOE intend to do if there are proof na talagang may overpricing given na deregulated po yung environment?
The discussions po, there's always been a call to review the oil deregulation law. So we are hoping that the findings of the committee, however it goes, pro or con or whatever, the whole exercise of establishing this, we will be submitting to both the Senate and the Congress because they're also very interested. The House Energy Committee is very interested. They will even have an observer on board. Some senators are also very interested. So the output po is not just the review of margins, but also a way to check. I cannot say. People have asked me, are you for or against the oil deregulation law? I think from all practical purposes, you have no choice but to deregulate because the international market is not regulated. But in the same breath, I will say maybe there is room for certain improvements. Maybe iba yung pricing kapag certain locations. Number two, I suspect a lot of the margin issues may not actually be with the oil companies, but with the dealers. Okay, in certain locations, mas mahal dahil sila mag-isa. So, magandang pag-usapan yun. Magandang tingnan po yun.
Sir, follow-up lang, sanctions for that kind of finding?
The law has no sanctions on it right now. If you review the oil deregulation law, there is no. We don't even have the right to tell an oil company, you're deregulated. I cannot tell you na dapat you can only sell at this level. What we do is we encourage competition in certain places so that you mitigate overpricing. And that's exactly what happened in certain locations na dati yung napakalayo ng diferensya for that Metro Manila, nung bumukas mas maraming gas station, competition prevailed. And even in Metro Manila, you will find some areas actually sell diesel cheaper than the listed price. Bakit? 5 gas station magkakatabi, ang same market ay hinahabol nila.
So sir, for policy lang talaga siya?
The vision po is policy because the law is really that. That's why it's called deregulation. There is no regulatory function there. Policy structures is the way to handle it. And also, the bigger exchange there, Michelle, is again, you need to think of the possible effects on the future. I was talking to one of the ministers, I won't mention the country, na today still has some form of subsidy. And he said very categorically in one ministerial meeting, he said, dahil sa ginagawa namin to, pagbabayaran namin to in the future, this is going to cost the economy a lot more in the future because we're insulating the price movements. Kasi hindi nag-a-adjust yung pricing and all the things, and people continue to consume fuel the way they are. People continue to waste and to, nobody's buying more efficient cars. They're all buying the Ocho, they're all buying big cars because mura naman ang gasolina eh. Samantalang in places where true pricing is allowed to happen, people are naturally adjusting. In the United States, nobody could dream that the day would come when it takes longer to buy an electric car than to buy a Lamborghini, and that's the truth today. There's a particular electric car version in the US na to buy it, you need to wait for 8 months. Samantala kung bibili ka ng sports car in 2 months, pwede mo nang bilhin. Dahil yung mga tao, yung mga Amerikano, yung mga citizens have adjusted to the reality na mataas tong presyo ng petrolyo, therefore we have to shift technology po.
That's why we also have the Bright Now campaign, right, Secretary?
That's exactly why we have to do right, be bright.
Right now.
At may mga katanungan po dito tayo, Secretary, pero dahil sa kakulangan na ng oras natin sa live portion, baka pwede po nating pagbigyan after ng live portion po natin. At hilingan na lang po kami kayo ng huling pananalita.
Ang programa po ng Department of Energy na Bright Now, Do Right, Be Bright, is about lifestyle and transformational initiatives po. Kahit ano pong gawin natin sa Pilipinas, hanggang hindi tayo makahanap ng oil or nat gas na kasing laki sa pangangailangan natin, we will always be dependent on international pricing. Kasi maapektuhan talaga tayo dahil inaangkat lang natin yung ating fuels eh. Kaya ho natin sinusubukan na hanapin lahat ng possible resources for oil and gas in the Philippines. Kaya ho tayo nagkakaproblema sa ating mga kapitbahay paminsan-minsan dahil meron tayong mga areas na may potential na gusto nating siguraduhin. Ngayon po, sana po maintindihan natin na dadating naman ang panahon na bababa na naman ang presyo to eh. Kasi gano'n naman ang markets eh. Tataas ang presyo, pag masyadong mataas, bababa. Mas namumroblema ho ako pag bumababa dahil wala na po nakikinig sa amin pag pababa ang presyo. Nakakalimutan na po natin na babalik rin at babalik yan, tataas yan. Solutions are needed po. Tingnan po natin yung mga ibang bansa. Sila po ay nakapaghanda na dahil 10 years ago, nakita nila, 10 years ago nakita natin, sila gumalaw, tayo hindi. Ngayon ready na sila. Meron pong mga bansa that can run now on alternative fuels, that can run on biofuels. 75% po ng lahat ng sasakyan sa Brazil kaya na po tumakbo ng biofuels. Yung gasolina na galing po sa sugarcane, na galing sa alternative sources po. Tayo, malayo pa. We don't even produce that much biofuels. I think it's time for us to make sure na sana po, we do not lose sight that kahit bumaba man itong presyo ng petrolyo ngayon, we need to continue instituting the changes po. Kailangan natin gawin yung dapat natin gawin para paghandaan po natin yung sitwasyon way into the future, which is na we have no choice. Finite po. This is a finite resource. That's why we need to go sustainable and we need to go renewables po. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat at maraming salamat po sa inyong mga tanong at sa pagkakataong ito po.
Maraming salamat, Secretary Almendras, at maraming salamat din, Kathy, at kay Jess, sa inyong lahat sa pagsusubaybay naman at pakikisama sa amin sa isa namang pagtatanghal ng Communications and News Exchange Forum. Alam po ninyo ang programang ito at ang programa ng Department of Energy ay ginagawa po natin para matugunan ang mga pangangailangan ng ating bansa, lalo na sa energy sufficiency. Matagal pa pong panahon para mangyari yon sa ating bansa, ngunit pwedeng mangyari sa atin. Kailangan lang na gawin nating tama ang ating mga desisyon, ang ating mga pulisiya sa araw na ito at sa mga susunod na mga araw para magkaroon ng pundasyon ng ating bansa para sa kinabukasan. Kaya mayroon po tayong programa na tinatawag na Bright Now, Do Right, Be Right. At pwede natin sabihin yung Go, Eat, Trike ay isa sa mga programa ng ating pamahalaan para masolusyonan ang ating problema sa langis. Kaya tulungan po natin ang Department of Energy, tulungan natin ang ating gobyerno. Marami pong pagbabago na dapat nating gawin, hindi lang sa ating mga pulisiya, ngunit sa ating pang-araw-araw na mga ginagawa sa buhay, pati na ang ating mga lifestyle changes para masigurado natin na magkakaroon tayo ng energy sufficiency sa ating bansa. Maraming salamat po.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much po. At sa tingin ko po sa panahon ngayon, it will be more fun in the Philippines if we go bright now. Maraming salamat po.
And so we should do right and be right. Thank you, Secretary.
Meron pa yung banda.